Hello. How's it going, everyone? Much love. I'm going to be doing a live with Neven Paar today. So we're doing a series on the Hermetic principles. This is number 2 of the series. Is that Neven? No, it's not. I'm doing a live with someone today, so the chef, you can't join me today, unfortunately. I'm doing a scheduled live with someone. Do you know who Lord Shiva? It's not a who, my friend, it's a what. What is Shiva? And Shiva is very vast. There is no who, man. There is no specific entity. Shiva is a metaphor. Cosmic intelligence. Metaphorically, yes, a god. But it's all metaphors, like the trident is a metaphor. The three states of mind. Sleeping, waking, and above both as well, the transcended state. And also the Ida Nadi, the Pingala Nadi, the Shushumna in the center. All metaphors. The moon and the star, metaphor for divine intelligence and the intellect being the star. But you can read into symbols in many different ways, but you need to apply what resonates with you. So Shiva is a metaphor for higher consciousness. It's not a person. No person exists. No thing exists in that sense. You know, this is all illusion. Even we are illusion. Oh. Sorry about that. I just dropped my bottle of water. Alright, where's Neven, man? Now there's a consciousness, Shiva consciousness, which I connect with. And the metaphor for connecting with Shiva consciousness is what you see, the images. So it's a metaphor for connection. Just like Christ, just like Jesus Christ. It's a metaphor for connection with Christ consciousness. Not specifically a person, it's consciousness. Like Buddha. Buddha is about consciousness. It's Buddha consciousness, there's Shiva consciousness, and there's Christ consciousness. Those are the 3 main ones. And all have different qualities. And it's all about quality. The qualities, the essence of each. What do they teach? That's what's important. So they were applicable to you. And everyone will have their own little way of understanding it. So I have my way to understand and connect with Christ consciousness. I have my way to understand and connect with Shiva consciousness. I have my way to understand and connect with Buddha consciousness. They all teach me slightly different things, but all very much connected because everything is. Hey, Hip Hop Good Spirit Wonders. Where's my friend Neven? Oh, we'll be getting started very shortly. All right, here's a man with the camera the wrong way
Oh,
around as usual.
it starts like that, bro.
uh, Mine doesn't. I think actually if you join someone's live, maybe it does. I don't join many people's lives, you see, so
Yeah,
I'm always the host, man. How you
yeah,
doing, my
I think
friend?
good, man, good. I'm over in Miami.
Brilliant. How's it going?
Excellent. Just working, some beach time, and yeah, just having a good time, but really focused on work.
Mm.
A lot of translations on their way, so me and Emily are both very busy.
Yeah, lovely, man. So your books have been translated in lots of languages now, right? All of
So
them.
far, four languages. We have
Yeah.
Serbian, we have Portuguese, Spanish, which is huge, and
Mhm.
Turkish. And we just got a Turkish Magus translation, so the first Magus one. And now I'm waiting for Polish, should be tomorrow. I'm waiting for Indonesian next week, I think. Urdu next week, Italian next week, Czech. Yeah, so just really busy because we have people working on these translations, but then when they're done their part, they pass it off to us. Emily's working on the images because
Mhm.
you gotta translate the images too, and I'm working on the formatting and then to put it up eventually on Amazon or Google Play or not. Now we're gonna have to find another platform for the Serbian because Google Play nor Amazon don't carry like these Balkan countries. So it's a lot of figuring things out. Yeah, this entire process, just a whole lot of figuring things out, but it's going well. And it's fun. It's tremendous amount of fun, but also a lot of work, right?
Yeah, of course, man. Well, it's always work, isn't it? But it's
Yeah, but it's
enjoyable work,
fun.
isn't it? It's
It's
fun. It's
enjoyable work.
fun,
Yeah,
enjoyable work.
exactly.
When you do what you
Yeah,
love, it's always fun. You know,
absolutely. Yeah, that's
that's
what it's
why
all
you got
about,
to
right?
express your joy, man. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we gotta vibrate at that frequency. So to you
That's
got to
what
be
we
doing what you love.
definitely. Yes, yes, that's it. Yeah.
So let's
How's
talk
my?
about the Hermetic principles number 2 today. So we're going to try to keep it within an hour as usual, but it might go a little bit longer. So
Come on. You know we're
yeah,
not gonna do an hour. Why are we
it's
telling
hard,
this to
man.
people, bro?
I'm going to let
We
you do
can't help
most of
it.
the talking.
Oh, all right. Well, whatever. No, no. We passed the baton back and forth.
Yeah, man. No worries, bro. So, where we started off, same as last time, really. We'll let you go first. So, we're going to talk
Sure.
about the Hermetic principle number 2. So, if anyone missed it, we've already done Hermetic principle number 1. So, there's 7 principles. And if you're familiar with like the Kabbalion or Neven's book, the Magus, they're in there. The Kybalion is very famous for the 7 Hermetic principles. So we covered these in detail last week, but we're going to be going into all 7. So we're going to be doing a live every week on all 7. So discussing each one in a little bit more detail. Rather than I've always done many videos on all 7, but we wanted to break down into each one. So last week we done all is mind. We went into that in quite some depth. So that's on my YouTube channel. It's also on my Instagram page, also Neven's page. You'll find it on there if you want to catch the recording. Good idea to catch that one. So because each one links, you got
Yeah.
to understand each one really, and like the first one builds upon the second, and the second one, like you'll notice today, we're going to be speaking more about correspondence, but I'm sure we're going to be hitting into vibration because you can't
Of
really
course.
speak about
They're all
correspondence
connected.
without
Yeah. Yeah.
vibration. So they're all connected. So all is mind first. You got to get that. You got to get the principle of mentalism to really understand correspondence and really understand vibration, because everything is in the mind of God, and we
Yeah.
are connected to that through our minds. So everything is mind. Mind is like the central console for controlling all of this. So there's the
I
mind
like
of
that
God, which
essential
has an
console.
order to. Yeah, it's a central console, right? Like there's a mind of God which puts the order to everything. So there's an
Mm.
order to the whole universe. There's an order to the way the solar system functions, our bodies function, the unconscious intelligence. The way our bodies, the biology works. That's intelligence. So there's an order to it all. That's why we don't have to consciously think about keeping ourselves alive. That would be very difficult if we had to consciously give ourselves a heartbeat and to consciously pump blood through our veins just to stay alive. And when we're not doing conscious breath work, we're doing unconscious. We're unconsciously breathing. So it's all very much automatic. There is no business plan to become alive. There is no business plan to die. It's all a part of this natural order of the universe. Some call it the Tao. In Taoism, we call it the Tao, the way of the universe. The way of the universe is the Tao. So there's this way, and I'm very much into Taoism, as much of you guys know. And my Qigong philosophy and the whole practice is about getting in alignment with these principles. So it's not just me doing crazy dance moves. It is a Qigong practice.
Which we all love. Which
Yeah,
which we
it's
all love.
me. I like to make it fun. Like You know, Qigong, I practiced Qigong for over 17, 18 years. So, you know, but it was all very slow, calm, relaxing. And yes, it's great to get used to it. But I flipped it on its head a little bit. I started doing it to drum and bass music, hip hop music, whatever. Because at the end of the day, because music is also rhythm and vibration. And, you know, people tend to forget music is also energy. You know, everything is energy, music is energy. So I find it very easy to get in flow with chi and the universal flow if I use music. So that's why I use music
This
to.
is the key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, you know, we connect lots of different things together to make it more powerful and make it more personal, and it becomes yours. It becomes unique to you. Like I've got my own breath work. I've got my own Qigong, you know, and Neven has studied hell of a lot of things and done a lot of research into all sorts to put things in together in those books. Like, I mean, he's probably had to go through thousands of different sources
Oh
to
yeah.
get that information, you know. So, you know, it's good to see it all in one place. That's why I love Neven's books. And generally,
Thank you.
I've got a lot of books, but I don't really read a lot of new books. I tend to go back to the ones that I like the
Yeah,
Compendium,
I
the
do the same.
Hermetic, you know, the ones that you just know. It's in there, just recapping really more than anything. But Neven's are some of the more recent ones that I've like picked up, and like it's just put a lot of different things, a lot of different books, a lot of different sources into one. Like he calls it a compendium, right? So if
Yes,
anybody's
sir.
not familiar with his books, check them
Thank you.
out.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
Hermetic
Mark.
principle, correspondence, I talked about it a little bit. Let's see what Neven's got to say, and I'll go in more depth into my insights and how I think you can apply these concepts to life and how to understand it as well.
Yeah, sounds good. I was actually going to mention, I thought it'd be interesting for people because, you know, most people are familiar with the Kybalion, but what most people don't know, and I found this out maybe 12 years ago, is who really wrote the Kybalion, who are the three initiates. There was all kinds of theories that it was these Golden Dawn members and Paul Foster Case and you know, there's been all kind of theories, theosophists, but it actually turns out, and there's overwhelming evidence that it was one particular guy called William Walker Atkinson. And William Walker Atkinson was a lawyer back in the early 1900s, and it was very taboo to write about these subjects, but he was into the occult. So what he did, because he owned a publishing house, if you look at the back of the Kybalion, it says Chicago Publishing House, and so he owned that publishing house. And so what he did, because he wanted to write about this and share his knowledge, because he was really into it, like he's a very advanced guy, he wrote under different pseudonyms. So one of them was the three initiates, and then another one, a very popular one, is Yogi Ramacharaka, which there's like pranic work, like they're also blue books, like the Kybalion that you're holding, and it has that like that triangle in the middle, and it's by Yogi Ramacharaka. And when you examine the writings from that book, yeah, that one, that symbol, which is the symbol of alchemy, by the way, that's the symbol of alchemy in general, and so he wrote under that pseudonym and many and some other ones as well. And if you guys are interested, you can go on, you know, Amazon or other marketplaces and you type in his name, William Walker Atkinson, and he's got all kinds of different like small books. They're about like, you know, anything from 50 to 200 pages. They're all about like $10. And when you compare when you're reading them and you compare the language to the language of the Kybalion, your mind is blown, because everything you learn in the Kybalion, these books now add to that knowledge, because he was in the you know, it was the New Thought movement of the 1900s. He was one of the leading people, but because it was taboo to write about these things, he didn't want to be known because he didn't want to lose his license as a lawyer. And so that's an interesting backstory, because it took me about like 10, 15 years being obsessed with the book to actually figure that out. But then that allows you guys, you know, whoever's watching, to use his name and then get more work by him, and then which will add to the knowledge of the Kybalion in a very powerful way. That being said, so we'll get into the principle of correspondence, as above, so below. This is the principle of all magic. This is the master key through which everything, you cannot do magic in general. Magic being you controlling your reality through your mind. Again, it connects to all is mind, universe is mental. So you have these two things, all is mind, universe is mental, then you have as above, so below. As above, so below, the principle of correspondence, what that essentially means is that since we have different planes of consciousness, ourselves being in the physical plane, living through this physical body, but inwards, we're inhibiting these various planes of consciousness, which can essentially be broken down into physical, lower astral, higher astral, which is the astral plane, lower mental, higher mental, which is the mental plane. So you have the two main planes, astral and mental, and then you have the spiritual plane. And the spiritual plane has various degrees and levels. And what principle of correspondence means is that when you, that whatever the planes are that are above are influencing the planes that below, and the planes below are influencing the planes above. So it allows you, this principle allows you to activate the process of manifestation within yourself so that you can manifest whatever reality you want, because it starts in the mind, right? But the mind also, now this is where Kabbalistic knowledge kind of comes into play, because on the Kabbalah, on the Tree of Life, we have these inner functions. And the inner functions can be broken down into thoughts, intellect, desire, imagination, willpower, memory, and intuition. So if you can get your mind to vibrate at the level of intuition, which would be your highest inner function that connects us, it's literally intuition, internal tuition from the God self to you. So you're directly communicating with your holy guardian angel in the spiritual plane, so the highest plane, right? But then also there are divine planes above that. We can get into those as well in the future. And so what happens is, if you can get your mind to function at this highest spiritual plane and operate through the three spirit chakras, so Vishuddhi, Ajna, and Sahasrara, then you can influence the lower planes of being, okay? And so that means that you, as someone that it works through intuition, which is the purpose of the Kundalini awakening process, and that's what me and Kambo are doing. We're fully channeling because we're at that highest plane of intuition, and so we're allowing the light from above, Sahasrara, to pour in, okay, and we're attuned and we're in the moment, right? Because it's connected to being in the moment. Time flies when you're channeling, when you're in this state, and we're able to take down that knowledge and bring it into these lower levels, right? So the mental plane, where we can evaluate, intellectually what the information coming in is, and then bring it down into the astral plane where we can feel it emotionally, right? Because the astral plane is emotions, mental plane is obviously thoughts, right? And then spiritual plane is given to us through intuition. So then that enables us to channel this information, bring it down, and then bring it down into the lowest plane, which is where we're operating from right now, the physical plane, and then, let's say, give this information to you guys and put it into books and whatever the case. So the idea behind the principle of correspondence is that the higher planes influence the lower planes. Now, the lower planes also influence the higher planes, but not as much. Now, I'll explain how this part is really essential. So let's say science says, there's only body, there's no soul, there's, no mind, science only studies the physical plane. But you see the fallacy, right? The problem is, so let's say prescription medication, right? There's people have mental issues, things like that, emotional issues. They start to influence the higher planes from the lower plane, right? Instead of working on the inside self, on their energy and influencing the lower plane, which could be created, like if somebody has diseases in the body, cancer or something like that. When you're directly treating the physical plane, okay, you can influence only the astral plane and maybe up to the mental plane, but you're not going to touch the spiritual plane. So what that means is that the lower planes influence the higher planes, but not at the same degree as the higher planes influence the lower planes. So somebody, alternative healing, let's say somebody has a disease and they're using pharmaceuticals to influence their body. They could treat the body and clear it up, but guess what? In many instances, the disease comes back. Why? Because the disease is actually a result of existing on a higher plane of consciousness. Okay, and so essentially, you're just putting a Band-Aid over something and it regrows. The true way to heal, okay, so this now relates to healing. When we're healing, we're trying to embody these highest planes, so the divine plane and spiritual plane, because that means that if we can influence those, we can influence the planes below. If we straighten out what's wrong in these higher planes, we can bring this, the energy down, which then manifests, it trickles down into the lower planes, and now all of a sudden the disease is healed. Okay, and this is how healing really works, through the principle of as above, so below. let's look at also the concept of magic, right? So magic works by, you know, in my book, ceremonial magic, there's all these different techniques. So like drawing a pentagram, you know, and having these performing physical functions, right? But then involving your imagination. So your imagination is on a higher plane than just physical action, right? So imagination is important, right? And so magic is able to work because through imagination, when you magnetize your imagination through your willpower, directed willpower, you can now on a higher plane of consciousness connect with energy, right? The energy from either the earth, which would be lower magic, like, you know, witchcraft, voodoo, that's earth magic. And then you have solar magic, which is ceremonial magic. And let's say just the use of mantras, right? Because mantras channel through the air around us, right? So when you're doing a mantra, okay, you're pulling energy from the solar system into your aura. Usually when you do a mantra powerfully, that energy will come into your aura. You're going to feel it like a rush of wind, which you can feel when you do ceremonial magic rituals. When you do earth magic, you're bringing energy from the ground up into the aura, okay? So it's a completely different system. But the idea is when you're using willpower, memory, imagination, and intuition, and you combine these things to create a ritual, okay, whatever that ritual is, then you're able to affect the lower plane, and then that's how magic works, right? So the principle of correspondence is the key to all magic, because as above, so below, and then as below, so above. But as above influences the below far more than below influences the above. Okay, and there's some more stuff that I can add to this, but I'll pass the baton, Chief.
Thanks, brother. Oh, lovely, man. You've pretty much hit the nail on the head with a lot of it. So, what can I add to that? I mean, you've covered the main concepts of correspondence being, you know, as above, so below. Below doesn't really affect as high as the spiritual, but you know, definitely affects the mental. So you know, there's always that interplay between mental, some may say metaphysical, and the physical. So the physical is always, there's always this bounce of energy and communication between those planes. There's always this constant fluctuation of information. This goes into vibration, which is going to be the next level, which everything is always constantly vibrating, everything is in constant movement, everything is in a constant flux. You know, when we talk about correspondence, we also, you'll also hear something references the macro to the micro. So the macro to the micro. So, you know, we got the solar system. You know, you are basically a walking solar system in a sense.
That's it.
We've got, you know, 8 planets in our solar system, but one of them is Earth, right? I know Pluto is, that's, you know, that's not included, right? So, so the 8 planets, and Hermes actually refers to these as, in Hermetic, as 7 heavenly bodies, okay, or, you know, celestial gods in a sense. So they're like celestial gods in a sense in our solar system, which basically provide like a divine order to everything. Like the planets, the sun, the moon, these affect everything. Like even the oceans, the tides in the ocean affected by the moon and the gravitational pull of the moon, and the sun, the moon, and everything within our solar system is basically literally affecting how this planet, nature, functions. And we are nature, so it affects us as well. So this is why naturally we should, if we are in tune with nature and the flow of the Tao, we should be getting more energized during the day and relaxing during the nighttime, because that's natural flow. That's the circadian rhythms. Like most animals, I'm in alignment with that. My cat tends to sleep whenever the fuck he wants, but he's typically, most animals, right? You know, the birds are tweeting when the sun rises. First thing in the morning, you know, the world just comes alive naturally. So, you know, as human beings, we should try to get in flow with this. So there's a natural flow. There's like from above, there's a natural order. Like Hermes speaks about this in the Hermetica, where, you know, when he has this conversation with God and the divine, that what he refers to as atom, right? ATUM, funny enough.
Yeah,
God is refers to an atom. And what, you know, what is everything here made of? Atoms. And then atoms joined together to make molecules. An atom, in its essence, really, is the micro and the macro. Like the atom in the middle is you got the neutrons and the proton, right? As a positive charge. And then you've got the electrons flowing around it, orbiting, very much like planets. Okay? So it's the solar system, that kind of whole cyclical nature and that orderly nature is in every atom, in everything in existence, right? So in your human body is made out of atoms and molecules. So everything is atoms and molecules. So everything on its most micro level has this divine order to it. You know, this is how biology itself is functioning. So the solar system has this divine order to it. So there is this divine order. So we're in this world, you know, and even the Hermetic refers to this, like, you know, there's the gods are asking the divine, like, you know, these people are just going to go crazy because they've got free will. But he goes, no, what the secret system that's going to be in place is going to be above, which is going to provide that divine order to everything. So yes, people can do what the fuck they want in a sense, but if you go off track, I've had this experience in time. If you go off track, something will pull you back to where you're supposed to be going. Somehow there will be obstacles. When you're in flow with the way you're supposed to be going, it's a lot more effortless, a lot more natural. You know, that's when the true magic unfolds. You know, that's when you're often finding it really frustrating and irritating, probably not.
Yeah, you're going against the flow.
Yeah, you're going against the flow. There's a natural flow. You know, like the ocean. The ocean is just flowing. The waves are just flowing. There's a natural flow to the rhythm of the ocean, right? You know, as Bruce Lee says, be like water. The water can crash or it can flow, right? So, you know, you got to flow. Now, I always talk about flow. This is why I do a lot of practices, which is about getting in flow, because there's a divine order. There's a divine flow, which is descending down. But as we get in order with it, because that order wants us to be in order. That's the whole point of having something which places an order. Like, it's control in a sense, but we do have enough free will to explore and, you know, enjoy God's playground. So, but the more we align, like people talk about manifestation, when you manifest, it has to be from intuition and creativity, because when it comes from intuition and creativity, you're in alignment with what your soul is trying to achieve. Now, if it comes from ego, it may not necessarily be in alignment with what your soul is trying to achieve, and that's when things can be really hard. Now, don't get me wrong, things can still be a struggle, even if you're on the right path, because you're going to get the tests. Because it's through those struggles we get stronger, because we need to get mentally stronger because the mental realm, we grow there. Like, belief and confidence is grown a lot of the time through those struggles, through that pain, through that suffering. So there's those tests, because we have to grow mentally. So we grow on not only on this level here physically, but our mind is growing. Our eternal mind is evolving. It's learning all the time with every physical experience we have. So the eternal mind, which is, as I said in the last life, is non-local. So even that is projecting from above to below. But what we do with it here, what we channel, what we do here, is going to reflect backwards up there, because that's what learning and understanding is. So that mind is developing through this body too. Our soul is developing through this body too. But, you know, there's the great planes, the three great planes. Now, in the Hermetic, in the Kabbalion, it actually breaks down the three planes into another 7 planes each, which we won't go into.
Talking about, So you have the three grades. So you have the physical, lower astral, lower mental, and so now you have 5, and then the great spiritual plane, which would be lower and higher spiritual plane. But then there is one more plane above that, and then that's the plane essentially when we are intergalactic, when we go through consciousness, when we vault out of our bodies through a lucid dream, and that's when we can communicate with extraterrestrials, visit their planets through consciousness with our bodies of light, and that would be along the divine plane of consciousness. And so, like, part of the Kundalini awakening process, or the entire point of the Kundalini awakening process, essentially is to awaken us to all of these planes of consciousness, which essentially means awakening the entire tree of life. Right, so I say that at the beginning of the Magus. I say the purpose of it is to awaken the whole tree of life, which is the chakra tree as well. They correspond. They're not the same, but they correspond. And then that means that, you know, the next part of your Kundalini transformation journey is to cleanse the chakras or work on these spheres, the sephirot of consciousness on the tree of life, and then to optimize these inner functions so that you can essentially graduate your consciousness from. It's broken down into the final one is the spiritual. Absolute is the spiritual plane, which consists of the first three spheres of Kether, Chokhmah, and Bina. Bina is the one that's accessible to us. That's intuition, and that's also understanding. So if you see Kabbalion, the first through main tenets are saying the lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. So you have opposite of understanding, you have wisdom, and that's Chokhmah. So Bina would be attributed to the planet Saturn because according to the ancients, that was the furthermost planet. You know, they didn't know about Neptune and Uranus. But then the Chokhmah is actually the constellations, all of them. So the stars. So the highest, our highest way to connect and the biggest influence that we have on us, okay, which form our destiny, not our. So yes, we do have free will. And the whole point of all this is to through free will to choose good over evil and, you know, good over bad and all of that. But we have destiny. Sorry, we have fate. Okay, so our fate is determined by our planets. So the astrological placements when we were born, that's our fate. So we can't escape fate. But destiny is something different. Destiny is something that you can influence with your thoughts. So the whole purpose of all this work that me and Kambo are doing is essentially to teach you guys how to become master manifestors so that you can use your astrological placements that you're given at birth, which influence your character, your personality, but you can code that and you can use your inner planets, these virtues that we have, these powers, so to create the kind of life that you want, to optimize your potential here on earth. And so that would be Kabbalistically connecting to the sphere of Chokhmah, which is wisdom. And consequently, that sphere is also the place where we connect with our holy guardian angels, which would be, it would be your spirit self. The soul is kind of more localized in it's kind of the in-between that can either, you know, go to the spirit or go to the ego. The soul is kind of that, like, reaches up and down, but the spirit is the mind of God. So it's essentially Shiva, right? You know, I saw you talking about Shiva a little bit. So it's the concept of cosmic consciousness, which you access through that Chokhmah sphere. Because you can't know the white light. So the white light is the sphere above, it's Kether, and you can't know the white light because you can't live in this body and know the white light. That's why people with near-death experiences, they see the light and they come back and tell us about it. So you can never fully experience that, but you experience the white light through wisdom and understanding, which are, you know, like I said in the Kabbalion, the first two, the first tenet, the lips of wisdom are close to the ears of understanding, which really implies that if whatever wisdom we're imparting to you guys, if your soul and spirit are not sufficiently advanced enough, then these may just be words. This is what the Kabbalion says. They'll just be words, and they won't access these higher planes within you to create like a aha, you know, like a trigger that's going to cause a change. Because you need to have your understanding developed enough so that you could accept and understand the wisdom projected from either your own holy guardian angel or the holy guardian angel of other people like me and Kambo when we're, you know, doing these lives and channeling essentially. So,
yeah, so I mean, the wisdom is like a seed, like, but you've got to be receptive to absorbing that seed and allowing it to blossom and grow from within you. So it needs to seed in your mind and it needs to settle in, and then it blossoms into, now I start to get this now. So seeds, I always plant seeds. That's what I always do. I'm planting seeds in every fucking post, like every post.
yeah.
There's not one post on our pages that isn't important. Like, there is no nonsense post. Every post is like literally like my whole Instagram is a book. Like, it's a living book, and so is Neven's, right? It's stuff from his book, but there's other stuff too. But my Instagram is basically like, if somebody actually went through every I've got like 5,000 plus posts in 18 months on here. If someone actually went through every post, they've got way more than a book. Like, they're because every post is important. There's not one. I mean, there's going to be stuff that's going to be repeated time and time again, but it's planting seeds. But I was just going to say, you know, we're talking about the planets. like the planets, Neven speaks about this in his book, it's still connected to your chakras. So there's no surprise there's 7 other planets other than Earth, right? So 8 together. But there's the Earth star chakra, okay? And then there's the 7 body chakras, and then we connect to the soul star chakra, which is, you know, where you connect to the mind of God, right? And, you know, your eternal mind, your higher self. And that takes you further. Like, you know, we talk about planes of existence. There's layers. There is literally levels to it. There's levels to it. So for me, when I transcended beyond the physical body, I call them dimensions. You know, like every new dimension or every other layer was I called it a chakra and a dimension. So for me, there was the soul star chakra, but then there was 7 above the head. Okay, but what Neven got to at the end, beyond the blissful realm of nirvana and heaven, it was for me getting to the cosmic intelligence and celestial intelligence, which is, you know, like it's almost beyond comprehension when you get to that level. It's difficult to put into words, but it without a doubt exists. And that cosmic intelligence, like there's a whole, it's like an elevator, like you literally travel higher in consciousness, but it's all down to vibration, because everything is rhythm and vibration. We talk about the three-dimensional realm here, but the next, from Hermetics, the next realm is the 4th dimension, which is a rhythm of vibration. So everything is, and this is actually going to be the next one. So actually, to connect with what is above, you need to then move on to Hermetic principle number 3, which we're going to be doing next time, which is then moving, you know, you're getting into vibration. Everything is rhythm and vibration. So this is why I talk a lot about raising your vibration energetically from a cellular level, because everything is micro macro. So if you are energetically, like, this is why I do a lot of energy, I do the relaxing stuff, but I do energetic stuff as well, because for me that raises my consciousness too. So yes, relaxing, letting go connects you with like your soul, intuition, creativity, but there's also gamma brainwave frequencies, which are very, you know, this is like 35 cycles per second and above. And then you got high gamma, which in a waking state, you know, that is higher consciousness. So, you know, you literally are still getting creativity, you're still getting inspiration. So when we do, like what we're doing now, we're going into gamma. We're not really in beta brainwave frequency, because you can't channel as beta brainwave frequency. So channeling, like what we're doing right now, what I'm doing right now is literally channeling from above to below. So we're literally pulling information from above and then putting it out here. So that's how it works. That's how channeling works. That's anyone that channels, that's what they do. They pull information. Like some people call it downloads. Yeah, you are downloading information. You're downloading from above to below.
And I was going to add to that also, folks, just so people have an understanding. When we're doing this kind of work, when we are channeling information, it's not Neven and Kambo doing it, right? Like Neven and Kambo, we're dudes. We have these bodies and we have our egos and things, you know. And I always say, like, you know, we don't take credit for this. This is like God's knowledge that we are connected to bringing down. What we get in return, what we get in return is the pleasure, the kingdom of heaven, the pleasure, okay, the feeling in the heart, the rapture of making that connection, bringing it out. It's such a joy that you can't compare any, like, you know, physical sensational pleasures to. It is the kingdom of heaven, right? And that's it's a rapture in the heart. And you know, when you have that connection, why will people say, why aspire to do that, to that, you know, why aspire for it? Well, you'll never experience the kind of joy that you will when you connect your holy guardian angel, your higher self, and where you're able to channel, because it's not just channeling, you know, it's also, you know, it's like I said, it's the pleasure, and that puts the ego in the complete back seat, because the ego is like, all right, well, I'm good, you know, like I don't need to like try to please you anymore, consciousness, because you are now so pleased by the fruits of heaven, which is this connection that you can create, that you can channel this light. We're channeling the light into our hearts, that we're able to, you know, express this stuff and this knowledge, because, you know, this is part of the Kundalini awakening process, is attuning yourself to the wisdom of the universe, the mysteries of creation, you know, and we all have the potential. Every single human being has the potential to tap into that, and that's where, you know, that's where the teacher, the student becomes the teacher, and that's where you don't need teachers anymore. You don't need masters. You don't need adepts to lead you. You become your own leader. You become your own teacher. You become your own guide. That's what intuition is. It's internal tuition, you know, and so that's a
being taught from
practical.
within. That's what the word is, intuition. You're being taught from within. Like
Mhm.
that's exactly it. And I always say inspiration. You're inspired
Yes,
because
it's
you're in
very
spirit. So
inspiring.
you're in
It's so
spirit.
inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why both me and Kambo were like, we're listening to each other, and we both have this like urge. We love to talk. We love to share. We love to express because we love to be in that inspired state. I don't know about you. I get, you know, when I'm listening to you, I get this feeling like this inspiration build like a sun and just wants to explode. And then when I start talking, just, and then just this release, it's orgasmic almost. I mean, you know,
That's
it's so
that's
pleasant.
why I do this, right? I mean, this is
No,
some
you love
people
doing it.
say like
Yeah.
this is how this all started. The Mind of Matter was me just expressing myself. Like, you know, if you want to manifest, like you got to speak it into existence. Not just, you know, not just affirmations in your head. You're the only fucking one can hear that, right? People need to hear it. The world needs to hear it. The universe needs to hear it. You know, the initiation of Hermes, God speaks, right? He speaks things into existence. He literally spoke the elements into existence. He breathed air onto the water, then the fire and the water existed, you know, and the earth. This all
Yeah.
comes alive as it's from breath and speaking it into existence. And there's a word of God that, you know, it's referred to as the divine logos, often, right?
I had a question for you. Let's do a
Yeah.
little different direction because I'm going to interview you. I want to ask you a couple questions to get, you know, to get some stuff out of you. So when did you feel your greatest moment of, because you were talking about how the Mind of Matter started, and I kind of want to stick to this topic of this inspiration, this channeling, because I think that's what everybody's kind of, because it connects to the principle of correspondence, because we're talking about the vibrating on the higher planes, bringing it down into the lower, and we're talking about the joy of doing that. So, you know, tell me when was your moment, like when you noticed this build up, and then you realized you have this gift.
Yeah, well, I've been teaching and speaking a long time. So, you know, I was a Kung Fu instructor when I was 19 years old, and I was teaching people in stock market trading, but I was always more a therapist. So, like, God takes you on the path because you got to develop the skills to get to where you are. So, when I went into what I would call an enlightenment experience, I call it experience because it was like 40 days where every day I was literally just transcending. Every day I just woke up and I was just transcending. I was just walking in nature. I didn't do any work. I didn't do anything. I didn't talk to anyone for like 40 days. Once it started happening, I just completely surrendered to it. You know, the only people that saw me was my wife and kids, but I wasn't even really speaking to them. I said to my wife, something's going on. I don't really understand it, right? But it's good, right? And I was just like, pretty much I would just shut myself off from the world. It was just like me, God, and nature every day. And during that time, I was just getting all these downloads, this connection. Now, my Kundalini awakening happened before that, like in
Yeah,
2015.
that's what I was going to ask next.
Yeah,
Was this
so that happened
was
before that.
after?
That was
Yeah.
profound, but I didn't really understand what happened. I
Mhm.
didn't really understand. So I had the experience, the light body, leaving, you know, my mind was in a different dimension, and this was no drugs, not drinking, nothing. It was completely sober. It was actually during a Qigong session at nighttime. Like before I was about to go to sleep, I was doing a Qigong session, and I was feeling energy like I've never felt before. It was just on a very intense level, and I'd been doing Qigong for over, you know, 13 years at that point. So it wasn't like I hadn't practiced. So, you know, I didn't make it happen. Like, you don't make it happen. It just happens. Like, I was just doing the same practice that I always do, but it just changed. The whole experience changed. So that was really profound for me. And I just realized I didn't really understand what happened, how it happened, or anything. I just knew I was different. I had a lot more energy. You know, I went through a bit of an erratic phase after that because I had to figure out how to control the energy.
Manage it.
And that was pretty crazy. Like, you know, you get that with anybody with a Kundalini awakening, you're going to get that because you literally, your mind has now opened up to way more information and energy than it was ever used to before. You know, it's like these gates open. So it was this transition period. So it took me like 5-6 years to get used to it. Then in early 2021, that was when I had this profound enlightenment experience. And that was where I realized I wasn't this. I literally, like, you know, I was actually walking. I wasn't sitting down meditating. I was walking in nature with my eyes open, and I literally went into like a dream, like a different dimension. So it wasn't a daydream. It was like, you know, I'm just walking and I'm going in and out of this dream state, like a lucid dream. And it was different dimensions, and I was seeing Christ, Shiva, Buddha. These were the three main ones. They literally started to come towards me and started to teach me stuff, and I was just taking notes, right?
Yeah.
And I was just taking notes, and I was putting stuff on pieces of paper on my phone all day long. That's what I was doing for like 40 days, and that's when the information started to come out on the Mind of Matter slowly, because I was guided to start this page, the Mind of Matter, and the Mind of Matter was. So I realized I wasn't matter. I realized I wasn't the physical.
Okay.
I was the mind beyond the matter.
Hence,
so that's why it's called the Mind of Matter. That's the whole point. That's the reason. There's a reason behind the name. Like even mentalism, all is mind. That's the whole concept behind it as well, right? So there's an eternal mind. So I realized I'm not the brain. My mind is not the brain, because my mind was not in the body. I was controlling myself. I was there. My presence was there.
You saw yourself outside of yourself. You became the silent witness.
Exactly. Yeah. And then as I traveled higher, so I call them different dimensions. So initially there was the soul star chakra, and that's and I started to write this down. It was being taught to me. I never heard about transpersonal chakras. I never read anything about them. I only knew about the seven. And the earth, getting the energy from the earth. I knew about that. But I then had to label stuff just for my own understanding. So I called it, I initially called it the God chakra, the eighth one, or the gateway to the higher intelligence. So you can call it what you like. And then above that, I call it the Akashic Records, because I started getting all this wisdom. As I was at that mental plane, I was getting lots of knowledge and wisdom. Things that never made sense before started to make sense. Like things that I was learning, all the dots started to connect. Like the symbols all started to make sense. All the occult wisdom that I studied all started to make sense. There was this deep understanding. It wasn't just knowledge anymore. Like the knowledge I gained became understood on a higher level. And then I would call the next place I would reference as the God consciousness realms. This is where like I felt like Shiva, Buddha, not people, consciousness. The consciousness the consciousness, Shiva consciousness, Buddha consciousness, Christ consciousness. They were teaching me different things. Christ about unconditional love, humility, Shiva about like all the metaphors and things like that. I began to understand it all. Buddha about compassion, kindness. I started to understand the essence, the true essence of the teachings. And then beyond that was like nirvana, where I enter like what Buddha would speak about. It was just bliss. It was just pure ecstasy, like orgasm after orgasm after orgasm. You know, you spoke a little bit about that. That's the only way I could explain it. It was a feeling of what Buddha explained as nirvana. And then there was just this state of what I called heaven, but it was just more a state of mind, like as in, fuck, like is this enlightenment? Like, is this it? It was like, I'm going somewhere and I'm understanding shit that I've never understood before in different ways. And then beyond that was what I understood was about the cosmic realms, and as above, so below. It all began to make sense. Like, you know, the true meaning of star seed, like we're seeded from the stars, and all this started to make sense. You know, we're seeded from the stars, but there's this divine order from above to below. And then beyond that, for me, was like a celestial self, the highest experience of myself.
I have another question for you to add to that. So there's a lot of theories about where we come from, right? Like, okay, as far as my research and understanding has gone, especially into the ancient traditions, which I'm like obsessed about, and I do a lot of traveling, as you may know. and then you have the Sumerians, you have the whole Anunnaki story, the idea that
Yeah.
at some point in time, the Anunnaki or the gods, what we refer to as the gods who are really extraterrestrials, they came to Earth. And for different reason, Zechariah Sitchin says to mine for gold because their planet was, their atmosphere was blown up. They needed to line it. Whatever, doesn't matter, just a theory. But they came here for a reason. And then they created humanity, and now you have kind of the Garden of Eden story, which totally fits within that. But then the question is, so genetically, I 100% believe that we are half extraterrestrials. I say half because we're clearly half animals. And I believe that the God part of us, which gives us this intelligence, this channeling that we're doing, all of this, is the part of us that's non-human. It's extraterrestrial. Now, so you agree with that? Good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my question, the next question would be, well, which constellation, right? And so there's all these theories. I don't know if you've ever gotten any downloads. Like there's the theory that we are essentially from Pleiades or from the Orion constellation.
Well, I put something. I actually drew it because I got this because this is the journal I was keeping during my whole experience. It's got "Live, Love, Relax" written on it. But I was getting, and the weird thing is, I never write in capital letters. And all the downloads were coming in capital letters. And like I was writing in capital letters, I was writing like a completely different person. So I look back at it now and I thought, what, I can't even read half of it. But I began to, because I felt like I was going to forget it. Like, I thought like, shit, like what if I don't remember any of this ever again? But you don't, like, you don't realize what's going on. It's never going to leave you when that happens.
Yeah. You just have this understanding and it stays with you for good.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually put, and I don't still really get this, and I'm probably going to get more information about this, but I drew this, and I don't know if you can see it, but I put the star, and then like I started to draw these pictures.
Yeah, I like it. I like that a lot. I love diagrams.
And what I put there is Sirius B.
Sirius B. That's okay. So that's very interesting. So that would be the Egyptians. So the Egyptians believe that we were, well, the three pyramids are oriented to, I mean, this is like 90s discovery, that they're oriented the same way as the three stars of Orion. And then if you look at certain other ancient sites, like especially Teotihuacan in Mexico City, which is maybe my favorite site, even more favorite than the pyramids. When you look at that, it's also the same configuration as the pyramids, right? Because the pyramids, and I was in the Great Pyramid, and I looked through that shaft, because the idea is that there's two shafts coming into the Great Pyramid from the sides, and one of them is pointing directly at the Orion constellation. So the idea is... And
I've always been connected to the Orion belt. I don't know why. I've always been connected. Sorry?
Check this out. You see the three...
yeah, I see it.
It's the exact configuration, man. It's the exact configuration.
Yeah.
As the Orion constellation. And when I went there...
I was watching the stars like a lot during this time, and I started shit I never seen before. Literally, I was seeing stars moving and stuff. Like, it was stuff was going on in the skies that I've never seen before. And I was literally spending a lot of time just in nature, and during the night I was just watching the stars. That's all I was doing. And I was learning stuff. As I was watching the stars, I was getting downloads. So most of my experience was happening with my eyes wide open. Like it wasn't like I was meditating. It was literally, I was living this. I was walking around and I literally go into another dimension. I was sitting there in the star, and the shit would just show up in the skies that I was just seeing.
You know what I'm sensing too, man? I'm sensing that, because I believe that we come from extraterrestrials, but I believe that because there's various races.
Yeah, they were talking to me. Like they was in communication with me. Like
I think that that's, let's say, like me and you mentioned Sirius B, and that now connects to the Egyptians. I've always felt that connection, that if I come from one extraterrestrial race, it would be the ancient Egyptians, the gods that were there before Egypt was formed, and that would be from the Orion constellation. But I do believe that, and there's a lot of evidence to support this, that a lot of different races are seeded by different extraterrestrials, right? And that over time, different extraterrestrials came down, had sex with human women, which were like, you know, were animals essentially. And then their DNA created, they became hybrids essentially. And there's a lot of evidence of this in the Bible. And various other scriptures and books. And you know, when you look at the Shiva, the gods, right? It's not a coincidence that the Hindu gods are all blue. So I believe that was like maybe the blue avians, you know, back in the day. So that's one extraterrestrial race. And then you have the Egyptians, another extraterrestrial race. The Lyrians, yeah, that would be another one there. The Arcturians, the Pleiadians is the biggest one, actually. The Pleiadians, it would be maybe the biggest one in terms of what ancient traditions say. But it's interesting because I feel like I connect with some, you know, I know various Kundalini awakened people. I connect with some people better than others. I feel like I have this connection with you, and it's interesting you say that was given to you, that knowledge, because I've always believed that I'm from that. My ancestors long ago are from that constellation. So we're a couple of...
Yeah, no surprise, man. Like, you know, something that I was given insights into was the monadic connections to the stars. You know, we're talking about monads when we talk about, you know, the mind and, you know, the soul being like a reflection of the monadic mind. So the monadic mind is, I was taught a lot about the dream reality and like the projection of the dream reality from the monad. But like the celestial stars being like the place where it's all happening from, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, no. It's interesting. There's, well, some of them, like let's say the Pleiadian constellation. There, from what I heard, and I have to research this. I heard this recently that we're actually our sun is revolving around them or something like that. So like we have our own solar system, but then there is this concept, and I have to verify this, that our solar system actually is revolving around another constellation, maybe the Pleiadian or something else. Yeah, and so that would be kind of that connection to, you know, and also connecting, and this all relates, folks, to principle of correspondence, because now it relates to the idea, well, we're living in a hologram.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
About below. So it's also very possible to take this concept further that we're somewhere jacked in, just like in the Matrix, somewhere jacked in some constellation outside of the zodiacal ones, you know, whether it's Orion or Arcturus or whatever, Pleiades constellation, and we're jacked in and we're experiencing this holographic reality, which is now concrete matter, you know.
Yeah,
and,
but that's exactly what exactly what I was showing when I was talking about the 13th chakra and that dimension.
Yeah.
That's the information I was getting there.
Right.
So, and that was completely new to me.
I just studied that right now.
And that was completely new to me. So it was literally like, look, yes, it's like another self having this dream,
right,
up there.
So it's kind of like, it's also like this. I mean, this is important. Why this is important for just people to understand is that people put all this emphasis on like, oh, I got to do everything perfectly. I can't make mistakes. And then when they make mistakes, they hate themselves for it. And they always live in the past and they just can't let go of the past and have all these traumas and things. And like, oh, I wish I would have done it differently. But if you look at the concept that and it's not a concept, it's reality. Like I've experienced the holographic reality twice and saw it. This is a hologram. There's no doubt.
You speak about it in your book, like everything, just like the hologram, literally everything suspended in the air. Right.
Yeah. But and then if we you know, look at the concept that if we're living in this hologram, oh, I know, I just lost my train of thought. Came back in. It'll come back. Sorry, you go.
Yeah, no. So I was just saying, like, you know, we talk about, you know, this is God's dream. You know, this is an illusion. It is an illusion. You know, so there is a reality way beyond this illusion, but we get so lost in it, like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, that film.
Yeah,
it's the whole movie is a dream. She gets hit on the head, the beginning of the movie, and she forgets. She forgets it's a dream, and then she remembers. And then she clicks her heels, and then she's out of the dream.
She comes back. Yeah, this is what I was going to add. Is that so people take everything so seriously, right? But we live in this hologram. But then, you know, like. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I was raised on I'm a 90s kid, you know, so I was raised on video games. And so I was playing video games when N64 came out, which was this, you know, huge, and then PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. And it created something in my mind that I believe we all have, which is this concept. Like when you're playing like a third person game, right? Or you're playing like, a Grand Theft Auto, right? And you play a character and then you get so into the game, right? Which you get into even more when you do virtual reality. I don't know if you tried it, but it's like your soul is experiencing that like it's real. But then let's
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried an Oculus at my cousin's
Yeah,
house,
that one.
right?
Oh my God.
And there's a game where you're on top of a building.
Yeah.
And you got to jump off. But the fear is so
It's
real.
real.
It's
real, yeah.
There is no, you're only going to basically jump onto your floor. You're not going to fall off the building.
Yeah.
But
your mind goes like, it's trippy.
The fear is real. Like, shit, I'm on top of this building and I'm going to jump off. But you even know it's not real, yet you still feel it's real. It's crazy.
But that totally adds more to the theory, which is not a theory, it's real, that this is a hologram, because there is an inside.
And the mind makes it real, because that virtual reality, it's not. You even consciously know it's not real.
But you still feel it. Yeah, but you still feel it.
Your unconscious mind gives you all of the reactions, the fear, and everything like if it is real.
Yeah.
And it takes, what does it take to overcome and actually take the jump? In the virtual reality game, which is not real, it takes courage.
And
that's the only way to overcome the fear.
Thrilling. It's super thrilling. Like, But what I was going to say with it is that, people put all this emphasis on like being perfect, blah, 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 right? But if you look at a video game concept, what happens when you get shot in the head in a video game, or you get run over by a car in Grand Theft Auto? You just press start and you start the level all over again.
That's it.
So I really believe that part of the Kundalini awakening process is to bring your mind to those higher states of consciousness, which is exemplified in the principle of the correspondence, so that you can really see the illusion of everything, and that removes the sense of like fear of death. We're all gonna die. Yeah.
For me, when I had that experience, the way it happened, that's why I wrote a book called Live the Dream after it, because the concept that helped me transcend this illusion, it was just a concept, was that this was a dream.
Yeah.
And it was easy for me to get, because I've had a dream at nighttime. Like some people say it's an illusion, but a dream, that was an illusion I've experienced many times, and I've done lucid dreaming, so I know how real it can feel. Right?
Yeah. That's 100% right. Yeah.
I just literally started looking around everywhere, and I just kept really getting the concept. Like, I'm in a dream. This is a dream. This isn't real. This isn't real. Like, I was, when I was really going through it and I was really detaching from the illusion, I was rolling around in the field.
By the way, that's how I had an awakening. Yeah, like by visualizing this whole reality as a dream. And one way I took it further is I started kind of visualizing this whole reality. Like, okay, so you're seeing in front of yourself, but what if in front of what you're seeing is actually the back of your forehead? So I have that picture in my book in Serpent Rising, where you're just kind of sitting back and there's the screen projected, and the screen projected on the inside of your forehead, which is the mind's eye, right? This is the mind's eye. And it's all these things streaming, these images from your own consciousness. But also what's streaming is the reality here that we look at with our eyes open, that has this perception that we're outside, but we're not. It's actually all happening here,
So when you have a dream at nighttime, you're asleep on your bed, but you think you're the person in the dream. Yeah. Until you wake up. You're the person in the dream until you wake up. And that's what's happening here. We believe we're this person in the dream until we wake up.
Yeah. And that's when the ego, that's the thing that happens. And this happened to me when I had the second holographic, when I saw the holographic world with my physical eyes open. What happened is I changed the vibration inside my consciousness, and the vibration, which now in my whole life, well, since I had the awakening, sounds like the sound of like the buzzing of bees, or like being, near a jet plane upon takeoff, so it's like a mild hum, let's say. But what happened is it changed to the growl of a Mustang, and it was like, so I switched something on in my mind, okay, through a dream state. I projected into this, and I opened my eyes and I looked around and I saw the hologram all over again. And then what happened is my ego came in about 5 to 10 seconds in and started recognizing the images and recognizing what I'm looking at and realizing that I'm still in my room, in my basement, you know, of my parents' house. This was a while ago, right? And then what happened is all of a sudden I heard that vibration that was like a Mustang sound. It started changing, went and it switched, and it totally shifted my perception of reality. So everything I was looking at now no longer was transparent and translucent and really just looked like there was no gravity, just a hologram. Now it started becoming concrete. And it started looking like matter. But it's interesting that, and this is what like psychedelics does, you know, psychedelics takes you out of your ego, which recognizes this reality as being concrete, like matter. It takes you beyond the ego so that you see the hologram, and that's usually accompanied by visions and all these different things. But you're really surfing these different states of consciousness, which we do inhibit, right? They're part of us, but it takes for the ego to be silent. It's the ego that creates this reality that all of this is real, that all of this should be taken so seriously, that we should fear death, because the ego is that part that's going to die. Like the physical body will die. We know that. We're all just walking dead people. I always say that. You know, and I think that's part of like for people to understand what is important about the Kundalini, why I have the Kundalini awakening, is because when you go beyond the ego and beyond the mind, and your soul is released from your body to inhabit all these different states of consciousness, you get to really kind of understand that this is that there is no more fear of death. It kind of flees from you. Yeah, it sucks. We're all going to die. It sucks. You know, you'd rather want to accomplish and have as much fun as you can on this planet, but you feel eternity living inside of you, and you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are going to live past this life, and your soul will continue to go into different solar systems. I say
it's a temporary dream, man. It's a temporary dream. Life isn't that long, really, if you think about it. 12 months in a year. It's temporary, man. I mean, some people don't even live that long. I've said it before. My dad died when he was 32 years old. You know, I'm 45. My brother was 43 when he passed away. Some people have very short lives, or short dreams. I call them dreams.
Short dream. I like that. Yeah.
So, you know, this is the dream. So this is why I live this concept. That's why my book is called Live the Dream, A Guide to Enlightenment and Freedom from the Matrix. Because if you literally get the idea, the concept, and live it, then you'll experience it. Like, you can't just, oh yeah, it's a dream, and then just go about living your life. Like, you literally got to reprogram your mind to understand this is a dream, and wake up that way. Like yesterday's dream, like every day is a different dream. That's the way I live it. Yesterday's dream, last week's dream, last year's dream, it's gone. I can't change that dream. That dream's over. It's like I woke up from that dream. Like yesterday's dream, I woke up from that this morning. I'm no longer in yesterday's dream. So today is a completely new dream.
Every day.
Every day. And tomorrow's dream, why am I going to worry about that? It hasn't even started yet. You know? And if I'm just focused on today's dream, this is how I get a lot of shit done. Because I'm just focused on seizing the day, carpe diem, seize the day like there is no tomorrow. You do that every day, your life is going to be amazing, because what is life? It's just days.
And also, Joseph Campbell said, and I really liked him, I read his Power of Myth book. That's the book that really got me on this whole journey. Before I had the Kundalini awakening, it was like maybe 8 months before I read that book. And that's where I got the concept that, you know, we're all living a mythological character, right? The only difference between the mythological characters of today, like the average person, compared to the mythological, you know, heroes of old, like Achilles and, you know, Hercules and whatever, is that back then people had a different sense of the afterlife, and they had a different understanding of what they can accomplish in this life. Even when you look at like 300, we're always talking about, what does Leonidas say? It says like, you know, what is this? Like, eternity, take it, it's yours. Or where's that Achilles? Well, you know what I'm saying? Like the idea is like the glory of God is attainable in this lifetime. And it's when you release yourself from the expectations of like, you know, we're so dumbed down as a society where people are just living this 9 to 5. They stopped believing that they're special, that they are mythological characters, you know. And but this is where I was going with Joseph Campbell, is to say that what he said, and what really made sense to me, is that people aren't looking for the meaning of life. That's what he said. He said they're looking for the experience of being alive, right?
That's
And
it.
that, and to do that, you really need to learn to be in the moment. That's the only way, right? And it's like you said, carpe diem, like every day live it like it's your last. Live from the moment, because then you're going to take in the juice, the field of pure potentiality, okay, which is all around us. And that's what's talked about in the Emerald Tablet, is that, you know, that creation is ascending from here up there, you know, instantaneously at an infinite rate. And that's how we're creating the different planes of existence. Okay, nothingness and possibility, infinite times in a finite moment. And that's how, that's the field of pure potentiality. Even Tesla, that's how Tesla got all of his inventions from. He was tapping into that field, right? You know, and because there's so much energy, there's so much potential there, but the only way to truly tap into it is to go beyond the ego, to go right in the moment, in the present moment, and just siphon that energy, just connect to that energy. And, you know, and that's when you start really living from the heart, right? Because the heart gives off a massive electromagnetic
Yeah, it's
field
the love.
compared
Like
to
the
the
pain
brain.
and the suffering sometimes takes you towards a powerful sense of love. Like, I mean, let me just explain a little bit. Like, my dad passed away when I was 7 years old. He was only 32. That was hard. But
Yeah.
when my brother passed away, because we were like best friends, all of our friends are the same. We went out together all the time. We even lived together for a long, long time in our lives. So he was the closest person in my life. And actually, my most profound experiences happen when I got over the trauma of his death,
Yeah.
because that love connected me, and I actually had this sense of connection with my father's spirit and my brother's spirit. They became like my guides, and they became like my guides. And actually, when I was taking my walks, I was actually suffering.
Yeah.
I was in pain, and I was missing my brother, my dad, and I was actually, but it was the love, that
Yeah.
love, and letting go of this illusion. That together, that's what made it happen. But
Yeah.
without the love, it's not, because you can't just have the idea. The love
Yeah.
of and my connection with them, because I had this such strong connection. The spirits were connected with me. I just kept crying. I just kept crying all the time.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop it,
Yeah.
and it was different. And I said, like, it wasn't like I was crying. It was like the divine. It was like God was touching my heart.
Yeah. Well,
That's the
pain
only
is
way I can explain it.
suffering. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's what Buddha, right? Like that's how Buddha reached enlightenment when he Gautama Buddha, when he was a prince, right? And when he walked around the village and in the neighboring villages, he saw people and they're all suffering, and that's how he connected with something higher than just having riches and money and lavish
Yeah.
life and whatever. And he dropped it all and he said, I want to connect with suffering, because suffering enabled him, or seeing suffering and then going through his own suffering enabled him to ascend and reach that state of enlightenment. Because that's the part, and I think that's the part, that's the ego death, is the suffering, because the ego is holding on because it's
That's
temporary.
right.
Yeah.
It's the crucifixion and the rebirth. It's again the
Yes.
metaphor,
It's all
right?
about the
Crucifixion
sacrifice,
and the
right?
rebirth. So it
Yes.
was very much like I felt like I was crucified and literally reborn.
Reborn.
You know,
That's it.
that's how it felt.
Yeah.
So
Somebody
it wasn't
said very
like,
nice.
yeah. It
From our
was like
deepest
a
pain comes our
resurrection.
greatest growth. Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, exactly. And that's why when you look at ancient traditions, there's always this concept of the life, death, resurrection deity, right? So you have Mithras, you have Osiris, who was chopped up by his brother Set into various parts, and then, you know, and then Isis collected them along the Nile River, and then he was resurrected as his son Horus, who has the same birthday as Jesus. All these same correspondences. And then, you know, and I think what it's reflecting, and I read this great book called The Green Man by Mark Pinkham. It's reflecting the green man. So the green man is a pagan concept, and the green man is all of nature, because all of nature dies once a year. It dies on the winter solstice, okay? And then it starts being reborn. It's truly reborn during like Christ's resurrection, which would be what do you call it? Like Easter, which would be the day of spring, like it's the summer, not the summer, the spring equinox, right? And then now it continues its upward rise, right? The sun, until it's at its height, in the summertime, and we get all the sun, joy, everything, and then it starts the dying process all over again. So I think that why we connect to enlightenment through pain and suffering and sacrifice is because we're emulating the nature, because we are, again, connecting the principle of correspondence. We are the microcosm of the macrocosm. We're a reflection of it. So everything inside of us is going through these same processes, only at a different rate, different time frame. But if we speed up this process, and we can, that's what spiritual alchemy is, we can speed up this process and experience the different elements, because these are elemental energies, and we can experience them in sequence. And that's what my book is about, the Magus, is experiencing the elements in sequence. We can reverse the flow of nature and within us, and then go through that death, right? Which is also, you know, Christ on the cross, the death, the sacrifice. It's the self-sacrifice.
It is a death. It's an ego. Your old self literally dies. Like you can never be that person again once that experience happens.
Because you become the soul, you become the spirit, you become enlightened. You're in tune with the light.
That's when you're guided. Like, you know, you asked me, how did the mind of matter start? It was because of the guidance. Like, it wouldn't be a choice that the old self would have made.
Right. Yeah, of course.
It wouldn't
it
be.
Holds us down. Yeah, the old self. And like, same with me. I had vices and things, and until I put them away for a period of time, I didn't discover this whole writing journey, and that, you know, this is an ability that I have. Before, I wanted to write books for a long time. I had the knowledge. I was building my knowledge from long ago, but I didn't have the determination. I didn't have the persistence. I wasn't able to sacrifice myself daily to fulfill this task. And then when I sacrificed my ego and I just said, okay, it's like time for a change, time for something new. I want to become something. And I just discovered, like Joseph, well, it's not Joseph Campbell, but I say your true purpose in life is something you discover, not something you create. So you discover this about yourself, and you discover these superpowers, and then it becomes a matter of tuning into it. You become a channel for it. And now, you know, you take your purpose, or part of your purpose, and you start going all the way with it, you know. And that's what happened with you, with the mind of matter, with me, with my writing.
Because I know it's not just me. I know it's available for everyone. And, you know, when you have such profound experiences, like, many people don't believe it. I know, you know, they won't. Because most people, unfortunately, are full of doubt and fear, and they won't get it. But, you know, if I know, because there's a divine order to it, because it's all divine, it's all happening in a divine way, I just have to trust my intuition, creativity. You know, this is why, you know, things are just growing naturally. Like, there's not really a lot of effort. Like, even my Instagram, the Facebook, all I do is literally follow my intuition, creativity every day. Just listen and do, listen and do, listen and do. Like, I'm not.
Come from a good place of sharing, and come from a good place. And I think, well, that's what, you know, God's using people like us to, like you say, you're building God's army. And, you know, there's a lot more people springing up, like literally like seeds from the ground. And then God like waters us and gives us the sustenance that we need to keep growing, and gives us followers. And then we pass on this light to other people, because, you know, like we see the average human, every human, we see reflections of ourselves in others. And so when we see somebody that's embodying the qualities of the light, like, you know, a lot of people are trying to emulate Jesus because he was the light. And when, you know, but then there's other people that are the light, and when people are trying to emulate those, when they see that, they're like, they want to emulate that within themselves, because they recognize themselves in it. They recognize, like, the light, and they're like, I want to be that, or like, you know, or I want to be with that person, or I want that person as my friend. I want to be around that, you know. And it's a very natural process that all humans are kind of, you know, privy to. And that's part of that natural order that you're talking about, is that's what's keeping everything in check. So yeah, there's always evil forces trying to affect that. And right now in the world, I mean, we can get into that the next live or whatever, but there's a lot of that going on. But what that happens is that then God's just watering more seeds when that happens, and more people are sprouting up to be the light, to fight that darkness, because there's always the balance.
Once your light is lit, like it's a candle, right? You can light more candles. Your flame won't go out just because you're lighting more candles. If anything, you shine brighter. You know, if anything, you don't lose your energy. You don't lose your light. You know, I get energy from giving energy.
Like, I think that's what's like making me and you just be like powerhouses right now, and people are recognizing that is that we're lighting people's candles, but then, you know, we're all connected on this fifth dimensional level
Exactly.
through the love energy. And so whenever we pass on that love to others, we get that back. I say we get that back threefold, right? I don't know what the real number is. I mean, that's just a esoteric concept. The idea is that you get it back and you get more of it back. Why? So that you can keep fueling more, right? It's all,
Yeah.
universe is created, it's self-sustaining, but the light will always prevail over the darkness. But then there are time periods in history when darkness will be really, really, really strong. But what happens is that's when the light amplifies within humanity to fight that and to overcome that. And in history, every single time, every civilization has fallen and new civilizations were born. And this is what ensures that life will always go on. Life will always keep improving itself, you know, upon itself, its previous self. There will be more and more light constantly, you know, so we really are just following cycles of time that are created by the stars. And now going back to principle of correspondence and Hokma, like we're all just, you know, astrology is 100% real. It affects people, right? But we do have free will, right? That's another thing. That's, everything's really a test of the free will. And then, you know, what we choose to do with it, that then determines, well, the Christian concept that you're going to go to hell or heaven. I mean, these are all states of mind, but it's meant to give people the idea that if you are good and you fight in the name of love and light, then, you know, you're going to go somewhere beyond death.
Well, love and light is eternal. So you want to connect with your eternal self. It's all about expressing what is eternal. Love and light. Fear and doubt is not eternal. It's temporary.
No,
it comes
it's
and
in the
goes.
body.
Pain and
It's in the
suffering
nervous system.
comes and goes. So love is eternal. Like actually why I started the Mind of Matter, one of the main reasons I was doing it, and I started it, and it's saving lives, because literally saving lives, because my brother died from depression and drinking too much alcohol. I have been depressed and also been addicted to cocaine and alcohol at one time in my life. So I know where it can go. So, and I know so many people in my life that have suffered because of depression and not knowing what to do, and drinking, some kind of abuse, drugs, some kind of abuse, abusing themselves. So basically killing themselves because they don't love themselves. So, and if I can get out of it, I need to help people, because I couldn't help my brother. At that time, because I wasn't in the right state of mind and I didn't really understand what he's going through. But I can definitely help other people. So if I can save lives by simply sharing information, which is what I do, I'm going to fucking do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you feel a calling, and plus, in your case, I mean, the fact that happen with your brother and your dad, that's like, you know, you feel the urgency, like, I got to do this now. I got to get on this now. I got to share the light now. You know, now's the time, and you're pushing through it, you know. And same with me, like I've wasted so much time, same, like alcohol, drugs, womanizing in my younger days, and then eventually I'm like, fuck all this. I don't, you know, this is like, it's a dead end. It's a dead end. And I'm like, I'm worth so much more. I had the light, the Kundalini light already for many years. It was year 12, you know, after my awakening, that I said, screw all this, screw friends that are not helping me, you know, move ahead in my journey, that are just there to like compare dick sizes or whatever. Like, not in, like, it's boring. It's not a bit boring. And then I'm like, and I discovered the writing. And then when I discovered it, I just bit into it. And I was every day like a maniac writing. Like I wrote the 2 books. I have 1,240 pages between the 2 books, but I have like still 5 other books that I wrote at least 200 pages for. And so I was a monster for like 5 years.
Like I speak, man.
yeah. I like the writing was my thing, because I was really exploring my own inner state. I went introverted very much.
When you channel, like that's how initially when I was channeling, I was writing it down. But then I started to channel and I just talking. The thing was, just things are just coming out of my mouth, which I wouldn't normally say. And this is why I watch back my own lives. Like literally, I don't know what I'm going to say. I just turn up and speak. I don't know what's going to be said. How it's going to come out.
That's how I've been with the writing. I just get up, like I do, like the 2 books that, you know, I never like sat down and, okay, I'm going to start chapter 1 with this and chapter 2. No, man, I just, like you with lives, like your superpower is lives, mine's writing. you know, and
Yeah.
like I approach it the same way. I sat down and let the inspiration guide my hand. I just type, pa, 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 you know, and like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
like, and then I look at it after and I'm like, oh, okay, so this looks like a chapter and this looks like here, and I could develop this. And that's how the books, my books have been built, you know. And, you know, people ask me, I think like that's the mistake the writers make in general is like they sit down, they lack the inspiration, they want to write a book, you know, but they're like, okay, well, I can't get the skeleton right, the foundation, so screw it. And I'm like, yeah, you're approaching it all
Because they're
wrong,
trying
you
to
know.
function from, like, we're talking about as
The
above, so
ego, the
below.
ego.
You
Yeah,
got to
the
get
lower
the
plane.
information from the higher dimensions. That's where
Yeah,
the channeling, the creativity, the intuition, the inspiration.
yeah,
That's what it's all about, and literally expressing it. Like, you got to express it though. That's the
yeah,
most important thing, because that's a true joy in life when you
yeah.
express that here.
Yeah, it's a tremendous joy. Like I get, you know, I wish that frankly that's why I did like the automatic reply thing is because I just want to write, you know, like I'm so busy, people write me and all these questions about the Kundalini and all that. And I want to help people. My inner thing is to help. It really is, but I just like my superpower is writing. I want to just do the thing that I want to continue writing my books because at the end of the day, that's people are coming to me because of the quality of my books, and I want to just give them more, 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 more. You know, because time is a factor. One day I'm going to drop dead, where we all are, and I want to use the time on this planet to use my superpower to its highest, and then
It's all
when I
about
feel like I
impact.
can rest,
You know, we're here to make an impact.
yeah,
That's how you echo through time. Like Jesus, these stories we hear, Jesus, Buddha, they echo
yeah,
through time and they will into eternity because of the
yeah,
strong messages, and the messages were connected to divine wisdom. So
yeah,
there is divine wisdom there and they will echo through time. Um, then there's going to be many, many people, not just me, you, but many, many people awakening across the planet. It's all happening now. It's
it's all
not
happening now. Yeah,
there is millions of people which are
yeah,
speaking the truth,
yeah, yeah.
and
And
expressing it
connecting
their
to the
way.
higher wisdom, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and there'll be more as time goes on, and you know it'll make our jobs easier. Like sometimes I look at some, you know, I get like 20 messages a day about people's personal Kundalini stories. I'm sure you do too, and it's
Hmm.
like it's overwhelming because if I just use my whole day to just answer that, that would be my whole day, and it becomes like draining. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like. I'm not tapping into what my greatest like all my answers are in my books. I always tell people like they have Kundalini questions. 99.9% of questions about the Kundalini are answered in my two books. And so
And the thing
let
is, when you're channeling for your book, it sort of takes you away from, because once you get in that flow, you got to like keep it going, don't you? So
yeah. Yeah,
you got to.
oh well yeah, that's the thing. And so but you know, for me now it's become really challenging with you know, social media presence, but managing that with like the writing. Like I kind of miss when I was, you know, a nobody and my books weren't out and I was just writing because that was to me
Mm.
such a high I had. Like I was literally like Hermes with Poimandres giving him this knowledge, just this like an awe of like things coming into my head, and I'm just like a maniac typing away, and like the joy, the high, you know, I'm trying to now reconnect, but you know, at the same time, you know, helping as much as I can, of course. But I guess what I'm trying to
Well,
say is,
after a while, you get the balance, right? Like you can sort
yeah,
of,
I've gotten
like in
better
a
at it.
sense,
Yeah.
you've got to let go. Like I'm not really that social of here. I could create more content than I consume, and I'm not
Oh,
really.
yeah, yeah, for
I'm
sure.
not
Yeah, yeah.
antisocial, but I'm not really like I'm not
No.
one for like small talk. Just talk for the hell of
Oh,
talk.
no. What a waste
I
of
hate
time.
small talk.
That's a
Just keep
waste of
making
time.
conversations like
Yeah,
for the
that's
sake of
boring.
talking. I
That's
hate
average
it.
people stuff, you know, and like, you know,
Yeah.
I teach like that for average people that do it. I mean, like when we're communicating, me and you, when we communicated, you know, right from the beginning, it was like soul to soul. We're like, oh, all right,
Absolutely.
okay, I
Yeah.
recognize that. You know, the average person is like ego to ego, and then the first 10 minutes are breaking through that ego barrier to get to the soul, and then it's like, all right, well, are we compatible or not? By the time you figure out if you can vibe with someone, that's like half an hour of your time. Whereas
Yeah.
when you're going soul to soul, it's like split second. You're like, all right,
Yeah.
this is working, or it's like, all right, it's not working, and you know you move on. Or if it's working, you bite into it. You're like, yeah, let's keep this flowing, right? And I think that's part of the Kundalini awakening process is that openness when you meet new people. And like same with me, I've become very like antisocial in a sense because I don't know, I just want to connect with the right people when I do, and otherwise I'd rather just connect to God and write. And I see that
Yeah.
as a very valuable spending my time in the most valuable way. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And we need to make use of the time is a very precious resource.
Yeah.
That the pendulum is swinging, man.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you know, when you're at a point you've discovered your purpose, like me and you have, then time is truly of the essence. Because like I look back and I'm like, fuck, so many years wasted. But then I don't like harbor on it, like harp on it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, but that led me to get sick of that lifestyle so much that when I did discover this, that I really bit into it. I wouldn't have had that longing, that desire. And you need that. That's what propels you. You wouldn't have that unless you exhausted everything out of a lifestyle that wasn't working for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like alcohol abuse, drug abuse, you know, womanizing. These things are never the answer. These things are just like you do it until like you're like, ugh, okay, this is boring. This
Yeah,
is
it's
not
just
going
been there, got
anywhere.
the t-shirt, that's enough. You know,
Yeah.
and you know, I don't pretend, you know, there's a lot of gurus and teachers pretend like they've never done nothing. Like everyone makes mistakes, everyone does stuff that they don't want to
Of
carry on
course.
doing. It's totally
That's
okay.
like,
I'd rather do it and at
oh,
least know what it was like and then stop. Because and I've done everything, like ecstasy, cocaine, you name it. Like there's
dude,
not
yeah,
anything
same.
I really there's no table I left unturned. But then
And
you'll have enough of it at some point.
you know what I love about you is the fact that you are as honest as me. And when I look at some other figures that are doing what me and you are doing, I
Yeah.
don't see that honesty, okay? I
Yeah.
see a portrayal of an image and so strongly that I'm like, that's not real because I know behind closed doors, those dudes are doing the same shit that we are. The only thing is like, we're just honest about it because it's like,
Yeah.
you know, some other people are almost like hiding behind it. They're like, oh, well, you know, and that's where the concept of, you know, this is a time of false prophets, right?
Yeah.
And this is how I personally can look at someone and be like, all right, that guy's the real deal, or that girl's the real deal, or that's a false prophet. And it comes down to that, like, how honest is that person? Like, why is not the first thing they say is like the bad shit that they did, you know, to get to where they are because they're scared of being judged. So you see, they're operating from the ego. Their image is more important
It's
than the
absolutely
truth.
essential because,
Yeah.
you know, we've got to remember most of our audience is going through pain and suffering, you know, and we've been there. We didn't start where we are now. We
Yeah.
started somewhere else. We had to
Yeah.
come out of that to get where
Well,
we are now.
that's the hero's
And
journey. That's what
exactly.
Joseph Campbell is talking about. If you just go from, and I know some people that do that, and it's like so fake. You know, if you just go from like, oh, you're in your teens, and like, oh, I'm gonna be a spiritual guru, and I'm in my teens, and no, I'm not. I'm gonna be celibate because that's what the priest says, and I'm going to, you know, just focus on this. That's like, you know what, that mentality that breaks down in about 2-3 years, and then you just, because that's not the hero's journey. The hero is supposed to go through trials and tribulations, be off the path, and then learn things, develop in wisdom and knowledge, and then when they've experienced it and they've gotten all these desires, these lower desires out of them, then they're like, well, I don't even desire that. Then it's real.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a seven cardinal sins. To
Yeah.
truly understand them, you got to commit every fucking single one.
Yeah, yeah.
You
You
know,
know, yeah,
that's the
man.
only way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wish more people that have a great big audience like me and you. I wish more people were honest because I know
Yeah.
behind closed doors, you hear these whole horrible stories of these gurus in India or you know, anywhere. I'm not pointing out just India, you know, and like there's this like image, the persona, right? And then you love them and you're like, oh, they're
And
so great.
behind closed doors, they're like
Behind
pedophiles
closed
or
doors,
something,
they're
you
like
know?
touching little boys, and you know, I'm not saying they all do it, but it's a
Yeah.
common thing. Like behind closed doors, they are animals, you know.
Yes.
And then you're like, I love when somebody just comes out right off the bat and just says, "Yeah, I fucked up. These are the things I did." You know, and I'm like, yeah, I can trust that person because he just gave me the worst thing that he did or she. I'm like, now you have my trust. But when it's all about this, and politicians do this, right? Like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
pure politics. Like this is all about the image and you know, and like then you hear behind closed doors, like Justin Trudeau does blackface or whatever, and I'm like, all right, you know, like Yeah, it's just so many fakes out there. That's what I'm trying to say, and it's
Hmm.
annoying. It's the time of false prophets, and I think folks like this is how you can tell when somebody's being real and somebody's fake is that how much dirt did they give you right off the bat? Because then you know that that's a real person. Because if they're willing
Yeah.
to come out with their dirt, it means they learn from that dirt and evolve from it. That they're so comfortable that in who they are that they can tell you about it, and you'll just accept it like just
Yeah.
to get your trust.
When
You're
I
gonna
started my
trust them.
page, I spoke about all the problems, the pain, the suffering, drug addiction, my mental health disorder, everything, all sorts of things. Like
Yeah,
I've had to
I've been
overcome
there.
deaths,
Mhm.
right? You know, I'm labeled with an emotionally unstable personality disorder. I had to
Yeah,
deal with the drugs and the medication they give me to suppress my gifts,
yeah,
right? I'm
yeah.
talking, I talk
I've been
about
there.
all
Yeah.
of this stuff very openly because it's so important because it's happening to so many people.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And also I think like me, I feel this always this inner like I just want to speak the truth. I really believe like the greatest tenet in like that Jesus gave to people is if you live in truth and you speak the truth, even when you fucked up, when you speak the
Mm.
truth, you're walking with God, you're walking in the
That's
light.
it. Mm.
And like it's not a coincidence Jesus spent most of his time on his ministry, he spent his time with like the criminals and the prostitutes and the people of the look because those people like they were real. They're real in their pain, and those people they've delved deep into their pain that they can rise up. But then the people that hide behind the persona, the kings, the queens, the fake people, the whatever, those people they're almost like they're harder to get to because they got to first break the persona, then them to live who they really are, which is just animals. We're all just animals. We start as animals, and then we rise up out of that like a phoenix,
Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
not a coincidence. It's a tale as old as time. And now there's so many false prophets in the world, and you see them all on social media and all that, and they're all got these power talks and things like that. But it's all so fucking fake. Makes me
Yeah.
sick to my
Well,
stomach.
now is the age of authenticity. That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
You got to be authentic, and people because people are way more awakened. They're bullshit raiders are on a high
really
level
hard.
now.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
people can see bullshit straight away.
Yeah.
I can sense bullshit straight away. Like I just
Yeah,
know. I can
same
tell it's
here.
this
Yeah,
person bullshitting, right? So
yeah,
I'm not going to be that person. I'm always going to come from pure me. That's my stories. That's why I just share stories. I know
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
people won't even believe half of them, but I don't need them to. That's the great thing about it.
No,
Because
no,
when
you
you
got
know
nothing to
your
prove to
truth,
anyone. You're
yeah,
channeling.
you're
You're
not proving
comfortable with who
anything
you
to
are.
anyone. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
knew I would have lots of people questioning the experiences I've had and the things that I talk about because it's not your daily average experience that everyone goes through. I know that,
yeah.
but God
Well, I
has
always
taught me
say,
that He already before I was even guided to this path, before I even started this path, I knew it was going to happen. So
yeah,
it's I'm already well prepared for the naysayers, the doubters. I'm
of
well
course,
prepared
yeah.
for them because
But the thing is
you know.
that those naysayers and doubters, they're like that with everyone. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? It's not like they're singling out me and you. They're like that with
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, yeah.
And the
We
thing is,
don't let their problem become our problem. Like
no,
that's the
because at
problem.
the end
That's
of the
their own
day,
problem.
you and I, we're only answering to one. We're only answering to God. We're not answering to no man, or woman. That's the key, and that's how people need to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how they need to stop answering to other people. They need to answer only to the Creator, and they have an inner connection with the Creator, which is very intimate. Okay, and that's it. They live in truth. If you live in truth, you are walking with the light. You're walking with the Creator, and let the Creator judge you. Don't let other people get to you. Don't let other people tell you you're bad or this or that. Just let
Oh yeah,
you have
yeah.
your
'Cause
connection
the
with the
thing is
Creator.
that the world is, and the majority of the people out there, they're out there, they're hurt, and hurt
Yeah.
people hurt people. You got to
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah, yeah,
Hurt
yeah.
people
Absolutely.
hurt people. People that hurt. That's why you'll get the comments. But you got to remember, they're the one that are hurting. They're trying to
Yeah,
hurt you, but you're not hurting anymore. So
yeah,
you don't need to be hurt by the hurt person. Only a hurt person puts a snidey comment to try to hurt someone. Only
yeah,
a hurt person.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
not a loving person does that.
And
Someone coming from
successful
true
people.
love. They don't
Yeah.
do it. They don't.
Successful people, you'll notice, and I'm sure you know this, and a lot of people do. You know, what's the difference between successful and unsuccessful people? Unsuccessful people, whether it's from unsuccessful in finances or relationships or anything, unsuccessful people are always pointing fingers. They always got someone to blame. They always have some shit to say, some bad way to try to bring someone down, step on their coattails. Successful people don't do that. Successful
No.
people like give each other high fives when they see someone succeed or do better than them. Even they give them a high five because they know the reason. That's how you get the success. That's how you get more success. Whereas people that are always blaming, finger pointing, judging, and you get that on social media more than anything. These people will always stay right here. They ain't going anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to bring other people down. And it's not. For successful people, it doesn't work. We just laugh it off. I look at that and I'm like, get out of here. Like for me, like, you know, people give me some stupid snarky comment or a smart ass comment to
We're
my
walking
story.
hurricanes, man. We're walking hurricanes. Like we are
Yeah,
the eye
we don't
of
have
the
the
storm.
energy to
The
deal with
storm
that
is
bullshit.
always going to be out there, and that's going to include people, situations. But unfortunately, we live in a world where people like to be a part of the storm. And
Well, because they don't want to invoke the light within themselves because it takes to be
yeah,
uncomfortable. It takes breaking out of the comfort zone. It takes
well,
pain and hurt in a lot of instances. You know, it
but
takes
as the eye of the hurricane, you're
transformation.
untouchable. As the eye
Yeah,
of the hurricane, because you're always on. The eye of the hurricane is fully centered. It's untouchable. So
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it's untouchable. The shit storm is always going to be flowing
It's always
around the
there.
eye
Yeah.
of the hurricane.
Yeah, and that's what Shiva is. Shiva represents that consciousness of stillness, that no matter what kind of chaos is happening around you, your connection to the creator is so great, to the cosmic consciousness is so great that all this lower, and again, connects to principle of correspondence, all the stuff in the lower planes, when you're vibrating on the higher plane, and that's what a mental transmutation is, by the way, as well, folks. Mental transmutation is getting your mind raised to a higher plane of consciousness so that all the stuff happening in the lower planes of consciousness, like the emotional upheaval and the chaos and other people's horrible, shitty energy, that stuff doesn't affect you. You're just like Shiva. You're just like, no, okay, yeah, go away. No, don't have time for that, you know. And that's true mental transmutation, and that's what builds real success in finance, relationships, and like Tony Robbins talks a lot about that. I really like these parts of what Tony's talking about. He's bringing that level and then helping people connect. You know, how people want to develop their finances more than they should. There's nothing wrong with having good finances, folks. Like, you know, people say like, oh, just because you're a spiritually enlightened person, everything should be free. You should give your books for free. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, why don't you go on ahead and pay for my mortgage, and I'll give you my books for free. You know, let's do a fund me of paying for my mortgage in my life so I can live in this like Western society. That's where I am. I'm here. I'm not
We
in
live in a
India.
system, and you know the system is a monetary system. There's a monetary value to everything. Like we've got to buy shit. Like we've got kids, we've got families, we've got to feed ourselves. Stuff. Unfortunately, life is not free. To
Yeah.
live life, it's not free. So you need. It's a resource. Everything is energy. Money
It's a
is also
resource.
energy. It's just energy, really. Like you give energy, you get something back. You know, money is a form of energy
Yeah.
exchange. Just as simple as like breathing out, but you can't breathe in unless you breathe out. So it's always give to receive, give to receive. It's the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
My other business is in the stock markets. It's all about flowing with money. I can't
Yeah.
get emotionally attached to it. Otherwise I can't do that job. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I've been doing that for over 20 years. But one of the things that I had to learn to do was detach from money, understand it as energy, understand it's
Yeah.
going to come and
Resource.
go. So,
Yeah.
you know, time and energy is also important. Money is important, but how you spend your time, not your money, is much more important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Brother, should we?
All right.
We did it again. I told you. I
I know.
warned you. we
I know. It's been an hour and a half plus now. So
plus 40
there
minutes,
we
40
are.
an hour and 45. We'll catch up next week.
No worries.
Same bat time. We'll do if it's okay with you. We'll do an hour before if it's all right with you. While
Yeah,
I'm in
sure.
Miami, get a little bit of
That's
beach
fine
time.
next week. Yeah, we'll start it at 5 p.m. UK time, so 12 p.m. your time.
We'll keep
All right,
it
dude.
Wednesdays.
Take
That
care.
sounds good, brother.
Thank
Peace
you
out,
very,
everyone.
very
Thank
much,
you for
everyone.
joining.
Sorry I couldn't take the comments. I know there's been loads of comments, but you won't get a chance when me and Neven are speaking, unfortunately. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everyone. Thank you.
We appreciate the comments, though. Much
Come
love.
back next week. We got lots more light to channel, y'all.
Yeah. Next week is principle number 3, vibration.
We'll start with that, and then we just channel into whatever comes out.
Yeah, cool. Cool.
All right,
Much
brother.
love, everyone.
Much love. Bye-bye.